Hello, creative, and welcome back to the Empowered Creatives podcast, finding confidence between hustle and burnout. I'm your host, Victoria Hines, creative career coach, helping creatives just like you navigate the twists and turns in your creative career. And boy, oh boy, are there many twists and turns. Hello, everybody. I'm back. I want to start this podcast off by apologizing to you. I had every intention of relaunching this podcast, season 2, in March of this year, if I remember correctly. But surprise, surprise, things did not carry out as I had planned. If you remember, if you listened to previous episodes, back in December of 2022, I actually hit the road as a nomad. So I've been traveling around for about 6 months now, as I'm recording this. What I did not factor in was the fact that I've been moving, I would say about every 2 weeks. Very rarely have I been in one location for longer than 2 weeks. So I deeply underestimated how much time and energy that would take out of me. So reason number 1. Reason number 2, I actually have been recovering from burnout. I have a full-time job in the tech world, which is my financial oxygen as I continue to feed this business that I love. And, the tech world's pretty bonkers right now. So that's problem number 1. But my team's had a lot of change, a lot of dysfunction, a lot of disruption in the last year, I would say. And it kind of all came to a head for me personally early on this spring. And I kind of just hit a point where I was like, yep, I can check mark everything that I'm feeling right now. And this is burnout. I might dive into a podcast episode on burnout. I know I have a couple from season 1 as well that you can go listen to, but there are some pretty strong signs when you are in that place. And I quickly realized I had full on fell into that place. So I'm doing a lot better now. I've nurtured myself back to where I am today. Summer's coming in. I think it's a combo of a lot of different things, of figuring out some things with the day job and giving myself some self-compassion and grace and soaking up that summer sun. So it's not one concoction that's fixed it. And I'm sure this will not be the last time I've experienced burnout. Let's put it that way. But I'm happy to be back with you. So a quick update with the podcast. I'm not going to follow the original themed format I had proposed last year. So I don't know if you remember, but I had thought I was going to roll out every month a very specific theme. And yeah, that's not going to happen. So why that is I actually started this business because I was going through a very sticky transition in my career. If you know my story, I was working full-time as an actor as well as in arts administration. I hit burnout in both of those careers, I would say. I was pretty lost for about 2 years. And after 2 years, I realized I just did not have the support, the resources, and the knowledge to continue to navigate a career transition on my own. I've also worked with so many clients in the last 3 years who are also going through these tricky transitions. Maybe it's a day job that they're trying to find a day job that won't suck. They're moving into full-time fulfilling work while they also keep their art as a hobby. Or a lot of these clients they're ready to seriously start moving towards making their art, their creative work, a serious business. So reflecting back on all of that, I realized I want to go back to the core of what I've created in the last 3 years, and that is really the Find Your Path roadmap. So for those of you who don't know, Find Your Path was a group coaching program I had actually launched back in early 2021, if I remember correctly. So I work with a lot of the same program materials one-on-one with clients, but currently I don't have a group coaching program due to time. But as I've been going through some crazy job, career transitions, as I've been working with more and more clients who are coming from that space as well. I just keep going back to the roots, the core of that program created, and saying, like, just realizing, oh my gosh, this is the structure that I think every single one of us needs when we are feeling like there is so much change, there is so much uprooting happening around us, whether we are choosing it or whether it's happening to us. That being able to go back to a structure to help us work through and guide us through that moment is incredibly helpful. So, Find Your Path Roadmap includes 5 main steps, so to speak. The first one is clarifying the misalignment. Anytime transition, change starts happening, we have to figure out why it's happening. What's going on with us? What about our current lives is no longer meshing with where we want to be? Next step is identifying your unique awesomeness, because hands down, you are going to feel the most fulfilled, the happiest, the most successful when you get to use your natural strengths and follow your interests and passions in your day-to-day life. It may not be perfect. I will say I have a day job or full-time job where I get to use all of my strengths. Not necessarily sure that everything I'm doing is what I feel a deep purpose in and I want to be doing for the rest of my life, but I get to use my strengths, and a lot of times I find flow, I have fun, and all of those things are important, even with a job that's supporting everything else you want to do creatively. The third step is pinpointing new possibilities. So once you've done all of this deep internal self-work, now it's time to look outward and say, okay, in this world, in this culture, in this country that I live in now, what pathways are available to me? What's out there? What is possible? Even if it's scary, even if it feels slightly impossible, if somebody's done it before, it is possible. The fourth step is exploring those new paths. So sticking your toe in and doing some research, and not just taking like the shiny egg syndrome and looking at the exterior of a path and saying, oh my gosh, that's the one I want. But doing a little bit of digging to understand what that path, what that road looks like a little bit more in depth. And last but not least, number 5, building a roadmap. So taking the path that you've chosen and diving in to the journey and actually bringing the goal that you've set to life, which is an incredibly hard journey, so to speak. So throughout the season, I'm actually going to touch on different topics that branch out from these 5 core areas, along with bringing in some incredible guests who are forging their own career paths. They're going to share their history with you as well as their expertise. And every single guest I choose to bring on the show, I bring on because they are defining what success looks like for them. And I love that. And I want to caveat this podcast a little bit just so you maybe don't feel alone. It's good to look up to people, but no matter how polished, successful, and shiny myself, anybody else on this podcast, people you see on Instagram, look from the outside. We've all been in your shoes before. There's no guarantee as well that we won't find ourselves back in your shoes. And why that is because creative careers are not linear. It's not a job where you are given a roadmap. I sometimes am very envious of my sister who's an architect, because there's very clear next steps. Unless you were to go into a transition, a career transition, there's pretty clear next steps. But creative careers they're not linear, which is the fun of it, but it means it's a lot messier. They more so resemble a hero's journey. And if you're familiar with Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, that is the whole process. It's what Harry Potter goes through. It's what Lord of the Rings, Frodo goes through. It is what Luke Skywalker goes through. It's getting a call to adventure, refusing the call, finally stepping over and crossing your threshold, leaving the life you once knew to go out on an adventure, slay your dragons, realize new things about your life, change, and then come back to where you started. It's all cyclical. And once, this part sucks, once you've figured it out, once you've set a new goal and you're like, this is what I want, this is the job I want, this is the career I want, this is the business I want to launch, something inevitably is going to come along your way and send you off on a brand new adventure once again. The secret to navigating career transitions and changes and discomfort is getting really good at recognizing where you are at in the hero's journey and getting really comfortable with the uncomfortable. So in this podcast, I'm going to dive into 4 reasons your creative career is not linear, so you don't feel like you're crazy anymore for feeling so discombobulated all the time, and 4 ways to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. Hey there, creative. I have a delightful invitation just for you. Imagine diving even deeper into the incredible world of living your life as an empowered creative, including more tips, tricks, and advice arriving straight into your inbox. Sounds pretty cool, right? Well, guess what? I've got something special brewing, and I don't want you to miss out. Introducing my oh-so-awesome bi-weekly email newsletter. It's a vibrant community bursting with passion, curiosity, and the love of building a creative life. By joining my newsletter, you'll get first access to new promotions and launches, as well as my welcoming voice in your ear every other week. Also, I'll share with you my creative career audit worksheet, a secret tool myself and clients have used during our own career transitions and pivots. So don't miss this opportunity to be my pen pal, as well as deepen your connection with fellow empowered creatives by heading to www.victoriahines.com or following the link in the show notes below. Thank you for being such an incredible listener, and I really look forward to sharing this exciting journey with you through both the podcast and my newsletter. Now, let's dive back into the show. All right, so let's dive in. So 4 reasons creative careers are not linear. Number 1, one person's definition of success will not feel like success to another person. Surprise, surprise. I mean, let's do like a easy exercise. I want you to think of maybe somebody you went to college with or a creative friend that you have. And I want you to think about what lights them up. What makes them happy in a job or career, and what are they maybe doing right now? For me, I'm going to think of a good friend who is actually hopping back into grad school. They're going after a speech pathology degree. They're an incredible artist. They've been doing a lot of really cool gig work around hosting trivia nights and really just like hustling all the time, but have really concocted like such an incredible career, and they're also going to grad school. I admire her so deeply. I admire the path she's on. I admire everything she's done to get there. Do I want to, stop everything I'm doing, go patch together a bunch of gig jobs, and also go to grad school? No, it's not the pathway I'm on. It's not what success looks like for me right now. Granted, that's also a little bit more tactical, not necessarily her definition of success, but I think you get the idea of what is going to light one person up and lean into their strengths is not necessarily going to fit for you. So we have to stop comparing ourselves there. Second reason creative careers are not linear is the second you achieve quote unquote success, your goalpost is going to move. It just simply is. We as human beings, we always want to have the next goal. Once we hit one goal, we're on to making the next one. What's more, once we hit one goal, the problems don't magically go away. You just develop new problems. You trade them in for new ones and new hurdles to overcome. Third reason creative careers are not linear is one person's path will not look the same as the next person's path. I think I already dived into this a little bit, but just as your version of success, your overall arching goals aren't going to look the same, the journey to get there is also not going to look the same. The steps you are going to take, even if you maybe have the same goals as the person standing next to you, the steps you might take are going to look very different than theirs, and that's okay. It's okay to take advice, it's okay to take recommendations, but it doesn't necessarily mean that your pathway is going to be the exact same route. You're going to have your own side trails. The fourth reason creative careers are not linear is because priorities are always going to need to shift. We have goals in our career and we have goals in our life. And there is a constant balance and interchange that is happening to bring those all together. Because you can't chase all of your career goals, leave your life goals on the back burner, and feel happy. It's probably not going to happen. Vice versa, chasing all the life goals, letting go of any career goals, it's probably going to make you feel pretty miserable as well. Priorities are always going to need to shift. Shit happens in life. Family can need you. Your health can deteriorate for some reason. And we have to be okay with going on these side journeys. It's going to suck at the time, but just knowing that it doesn't mean you can't find yourself back on the pathway that you were forging all along. I'll share this little piece with you. I wish I was running this business full time. Oh my gosh, I would have so much fun on a day-to-day. I actually think back to the days where I got to do this full time, this podcast, working with clients, hosting workshops. Oh, it was the best. But financially, it's not where I was at the time, and I'm still not there yet either. And that's okay. My priorities have to be balanced in some way. Now, what I do know is if I left this business behind just to focus on the money, I wouldn't be happy either. So it means I'm constantly finding a balance between the two. All right, so those are the 4 reasons why creative careers are not linear. Let's dive into the 4 ways to get really comfortable with the uncomfortable because this journey is not going away. Number 1, set process goals. Once you have your vision for success, you have to give yourself something that you can control. So process goals are really incredible. I had an entire episode on them actually last season. Process goals are those little goals that you can control on a day-to-day. So let's say I want to run a marathon and I give myself the goal of, great, I am going to run 5 days a week, X number of miles at this speed. That's a process goal. Process goal is telling myself I am going to get out, put my tennis shoes on, and go run 5 days a week. I don't know if I'm going to be able to run the marathon in 3 months. And actually, running a marathon has never been on my bucket list, so I don't know why I'm using this analogy. But the process goal is me getting out there and just running, knowing that these small steps are going to take me across the finish line. Fun pun there. Way number 2 is keep moving at an elephant's pace. I'm a really big fan of the mindfulness app Headspace, and there was this fun little video about getting comfortable with moving at an elephant's pace. And I've usually borrowed Martha Beck's turtle pace, but I like the idea of elephant's pace, mainly because I also hung out with a bunch of elephants in Thailand this past January. And if you've ever watched elephants walk, not run, walk, they're really slow. I mean, they have very long legs, so compared to us humans, they walk really fast. But overall, they're very slow beings, and they sort of just lumber along, moving side to side. And they're these beautiful creatures, but like what's beautiful about an elephant's pace is they get to where they need to be. Even if they're lackadaisically moving in that direction, they get there. I like the idea of an elephant's pace because it means like, I feel like that's what life feels like, is sometimes we are like slowly shuffling side to side, and it can feel like a big heavy weight we're moving along. But moving at that pace is still going to get you to your destination. And it's okay if the ground's shifting below you, as long as you keep on moving. Way number 3 to get comfortable with the uncomfortable is to step away and seek out the things that bring you comfort and joy. So when life gets very uncomfortable, when the amount of change that is happening feels overwhelming, you don't know how to handle it anymore, maybe you're getting burnout, stepping away and leaning into joy again can be a great healing exercise. This is finding people, experiences, places that you know can even maybe just put a little smile on your face that day. I've been feeling very uncomfortable in my career, my job, my business the last 3 months. I'll be honest. Something that helped me heal enough to get me back to the point to where I could hop back into this podcast, which does give me so much joy. But it was hanging out with friends. It was having an evening cooking dinner with them and drinking wine and talking. It was going out for an ice cream trip. Leaning into those tiny little things that might heal you in the moment can rejuvenate your energy so that you can get through the longer bouts of uncomfortability. The 4th way to get comfortable with the uncomfortable is to be kind to yourself. You just have to. It's so easy to self-criticize. It was really easy for me to give myself a very hard time for not launching this podcast last March. 3 months ago? It was very easy. It was very easy for me to put myself down. It was very easy for me to just feel all around bad. I knew it was something I wanted to do, but it didn't happen. And this time around, I had to remind myself, Victoria, it might just not be the time. Right now might not be the time, and it doesn't mean that time's not going to come. AKA now. That was just not the moment. So be kind to yourself. This hero's journey, it is hard. All right, my creative friend, here's your one thing this week. I want you to create your very unlinear path in your career and life in order to get a bird's eye view. So this could be writing it out on a sheet of paper. This could be drawing it. This could be collaging it. This could be pulling out crayons and doodling on a sheet of paper, whatever you want. Or sidewalk chalk. Also a big fan of that. But I want you to either draw or write down what are those major milestones or changes that you've experienced in your life, your career, and or your art. Write it all down, draw it out. Once done, take a step back and breathe it all in. After all, you've been on this journey for quite a long time. A lot's happened. I want you to absorb how far you've come from the first marker on your path to where you are today. And in another 20, 30, 40 years, think how much further you will be as well. All right. If you enjoyed the Empowered Creatives podcast, please do rate, review, and subscribe. It is the number one way for me to grow an audience, find new followers, and bring more people just like you into the fold. With that being said, until the next time, stay creative.